All right, guys. Day number 4. Man, we got to get some longer days in because it's going slow. Today, what we're going to do before we reassemble our fuel tank, I'm going to take this fairing off. I'm going to pull out any junk wiring that we don't need that was from the old stereo. We're going to pull all that stuff out, clean up our wiring in the fairing and whatever is laying here, and then we're going to put our tank back on. Start by pulling these ditch lights off, and then we're going to take our fairing off and have a look. Well, it's good we pulled the fairing off and had a look at the wiring. We found one broken ground wire from the main harness to the trees. Grounds all your switches and gauges. And there was a couple of broken speaker wires. So we got that all cleaned up. Now we'll get our battery in there and hook up our new circuit breaker and check all our lights before we put our new ECM in. Well, we got all the lights figured out. We put a couple new housings in here with some new bulbs. Fixed a couple wires. So now we're gonna go over here, open up this fuel tank, see what's going on. And we do that by taking these screws out of the top. There's little plastic washers inside, so be careful with those. And we'll see what's going on there. And replace the fuel filter, get that on the bike. Threads are buggered up on that one, so we'll have to clean that up. Once you get your fuel plate out, flat screwdriver, pop this clip down. Obviously you want to lay down a rag, protect your paint. This right here is your fuel filter. I like to stock the fuel filter kits that come with the filter and the hose. To service the fuel filter, you got to cut the hose carefully off of the fuel pump here. It's a plastic nipple, so you don't want to wreck it, because that's going to suck. And you can take a knife once you get that off of there. Cut it carefully with a utility knife and slide it off. Now it's time to push your fuel line onto your filter. It's a little bit hard, so I'm going to be very clear. Only do this with a brand new fuel line and a brand new fuel filter away from your fuel tank. Take a lighter or a heat gun and just heat it up so the plastic turns clear, and you'll slide it on like nothing. But only do it with a brand new one. Make sure that when you get your fuel line on there and you put your filter in there, you don't forget to put the little O-ring on there. Your kit should come with a new O-ring. And then clip it back together. And you're going to want to tighten up all 10 of these little screws. Make sure you got your plastic washers in there. It ain't going to take much. You want to crisscross them. Now we're going to drop our fuel tank back on there. Now that you've got your fuel tank on, you might as well fill it right full of 20 liters of premium fuel, just so in case you got to take it off, it's going to be a real pain in the ass. So now that we've got the fuel tank on, so we've got 20 liters of fuel in there. Last thing we got to do here is put the exhaust on and our Thundermax EFI module. So we're going to take this old ECM out of here. We're probably going to just throw that in the garbage, because there's no reason you'd ever want to put that back in there. All right, here we go. Really nice little present to get to open up. Here's our brand new Thundermax EFI module. Complete new ECM. You can plug into two 18mm wideband O2 sensors. Your main harness from your module to your O2 sensors and your instructions. First thing we're going to do is put a little bit of dielectric grease that comes in the kit on our main harness. Once again, dielectric grease is not a conductor. It just seals your connection so you don't get dust and water in there. A red dot on your harness goes up. You slide that in there. Tighten up your two Phillips screws. We're going to put some dielectric grease here on our main wiring harness where it plugs into the new EFI module, ECM, whatever you want to call it. Get that plugged in. Make sure it clips in there properly. Put our two mounting screws back in there. Biggest problem I've seen with EFI modules that someone else has installed is the wires are not run properly and they're on a sharp edge somewhere and they get rubbed through or cut through. So make sure when you run your main harness that you run your wires according to the instructions, or take the time to run them that they don't get rubbed through. Now what we're going to do is take the muffler off the head pipe, and we're going to have a look and see how this weld is on here. This pipe's been welded, so we want to make sure it's welded good and we don't have an air leak. For some reason this pipe's got red glitter all over it. I'd say that's a pretty big deal. I'm not quite sure why. You can see how this pipe's been welded. I guess it got by for as long as it needed to be, but if you look right here and you see a black spot, the line shooting up, that's an air leak. That's going to greatly affect how this bike will tune, ride, and perform. So we're going to take a wire wheel, clean this all up, and hit it with a TIG welder, and try and make it just a little bit better.
All right, so we got that welded up as nice as we can from what we had to start with. Get that installed on the bike. You can see these are square flanges, so it's going to be the short race exhaust gaskets we're going to be using on this one. These are the race gaskets. They sit nice and flat up against there. We're just going to stuff these in there. Just like that, nice and easy. Might catch a little bit of flack from some of you guys, and that's fine. We've been doing this for years and it works great for us. I don't use silicone often, but when I do, I use the right stuff silicone, and I'll put a little layer around the top edge of my exhaust gaskets before I put my head pipe in there. You really don't want an air leak in your exhaust at all, and this stuff is high temperature and will make sure that your exhaust seals up really good. And this stuff also will not hurt your oxygen sensors. When you're putting your exhaust pipe on, you want to put it on snug but loose, because you want it to sit where it wants to sit, so that you don't put any tension anywhere and break it. This is a stainless steel exhaust pipe. Stainless steel gets brittle and will break. Most of the time when I see a broken exhaust pipe, it's due to improper installation to start with. So now that that is loose, I'm going to put our muffler on and see where it wants to sit. So this bracket that goes from the tranny to the bottom pipe, we're going to have to die grind these holes out a little bit down and forward so that the pipe will sit where it wants to sit properly without having to put any tension on any bolts or exhaust pipe. Now that we've got our 4 exhaust flange bolts up here at the head snug, and we've got our mount bolt snug. We've got this one loose but snug, and these 2 snug. We're going to start by tightening up the 4 bolts up here. Then we're going to tighten up our mount we're going to tighten up here. And lastly, we're going to tighten up our rear mount. Now that we've got our exhaust pipe tight, we're going to pull these 18mm O2 bungs out and put our 18mm wideband O2 sensors in from Thundermax. If you're getting these brand new from Thundermax, they're going to have little nickel anti-seize on them already. If you're reusing some old ones, you got to first make sure they're good. You want to put some nickel anti-seize on them. Start them by hand and then tighten them up afterwards. Just make sure that they're sealed properly, because any sort of exhaust leak, and you'll never get your bike running or tuned properly. I can't express this enough. Most of the problems I've seen from these Thundermax EFI modules not running correctly, installed by other shops, is usually because they've been installed improperly. Wires are rubbed through. So make sure when you run your wires, you put enough zip ties on that they don't come loose, melt through. Watch out for sharp edges. And don't put your zip ties on too tight. Too tight of a zip tie will also break the wires inside. Make sure you put a little dielectric grease on your O2 sensor harness connectors, and make sure they clip into place. You can't pull them apart. Alright, and we're getting pretty close to getting this thing fired up. I'm going to wipe all the oil off the exhaust. Even though this is a used pipe, we don't want to add any burn marks. We're going to leave all this nice red glitter on the muffler. It might be there for some reason. Alright, now we've got our cable plugged in. We've checked to make sure there's oil in the bike. We got all three topped off. Now we're gonna plug in with our laptop. If you're unsure how to do this, give me a call or have us do it. Instructions, you gotta have your VIN number handy, and we're gonna download a base map into this bike. At some point in time, I'll show you an in-depth video on how to do that. So we're gonna put a base map in here right now and get started. All right, let's see how she starts up. Filter was full of oil. Lifter noise went away like 5 seconds after starting the bike up. So we know we've got good oil pressure, we have no smoking. We did our calibration on our computer, 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off, 3 times. And what that does is the throttle position sensor, all our sensors work off voltage. That way the Thundermax EFI module knows home position on all our engine sensors. And now we're going to start it up one more time, let it reach operating temperature, see what it's doing on the computer, and we'll go from there. So far, so good. We're going to check a few things, make sure we've got no oil leaks. Looking under the bike, it doesn't look like we do. We're going to put our fairing back on. We've got a couple little things left to do, like for some reason the brake line on the back is loose. So we're going to have to put some brake fluid in there, bleed our brakes. Put our heat shields back on, put our right floorboard on. We're going to flush our front brake fluid at the same time. And we're waiting on a quick detach docking hardware kit so that we can put our trunk back on, and it'll be a quick detach. And then we'll be pretty much done until spring, and we get to ride this old girl. Bleeding the brakes, we'll use a Bellray Dock 5 brake fluid. I like to use this vacuum pump. And what it does, it just sucks the brake fluid right through. Very simple and easy. Now we're going to get all these heat shields put on, so we can put our floorboard back on. Floorboard on there, and all your heat shields. You want to take some brake clean. Wipe them heat shields off of any grease or fingerprints before you fire the bike up. Now we're going to go put this fairing back on the bike. So all we got left to do here is suck some new brake fluid from the master through calipers, bleed our front system, and she's pretty much ready to go. Well, that's it for this bike, guys. Until we get the 2-pack mounting brackets, this one's done. Thanks for watching. I hope the owner of this bike enjoys it as much as we enjoy putting it together. And if you like this video, great. Give me a thumbs up, like the video, share it. If you didn't like it, tell me it sucked. Great. And we'll see you guys next time with the next video. That's it. Have a great night. Thank you.